Welcome to Diecast Restos. I'm Jason, and today I'm restoring a pair of Lesney Matchbox No. 24 Weatherill Hydraulic Excavators. The first is this 24A version from 1956 to 1959, missing its shovel. In 1959, it was replaced by the upscaled 24B version, which, while visually near identical, had a different construction in parts. This one, which has been repainted in green over its traditional yellow, was sent in to me by Tony Hughes. He has provided me with plenty of models ripe for restoring over the years. Few are more deserving than this. The Weatherill hydraulic label that has been painted around on Tony's example was shared between the 24A and B, despite the shift in scale. This has also had the grey plastic wheels painted black, although Lesney did produce these with black plastic wheels from factory. I'll return both of these models to factory spec, providing a reproduction shovel for the 24A plus some silver trim, while the 24B will go without trim but will undergo a total repaint. Here's a look at a real Weatherill hydraulic equipped tractor. It's important to note that Weatherill were not the manufacturers of the vehicle. They made the shovel and the hydraulic equipment that powered it. Sources suggest that the tractor itself is based on a Fordson Major, a brand of tractor Lesney later offered at 72A in 1959, and a model that I restored back in 2020. The 24A is just 58mm in length, while the 24B is 67mm long. The earlier models can be found painted a brighter yellow like mine, or a darker, more orange yellow. Values for either are quite low, no matter how pristine. The shovel, which mine is missing, is hinged, adding play value, though it was retained by only a pair of very short lugs. The caustic soda did an incredible job at removing the green paint, but it hardly touched the yellow underneath. It appears that a mint example was painted over by a previous owner. Sadly, this couldn't be saved, as the caustic soda had begun to bubble under the surface, particularly on the lower portions. The 24A was enhanced with silver trim to the hydraulic rams on either side of the cab, as well as the exhaust on the left side. Axles had crimped ends, retaining the metal wheels. For the transition to the new 24B models, these were changed to grey plastic. The black Weatherill hydraulic decal on the rear of the model was kept, but the silver trim was omitted. Notably, the 24A was the first Lesney model to have its number cast onto the underside and onto its metal wheels. However, both front and rear sets are stamped with a tiny number 23, after the model was supposedly renumbered 24 after the dies had been made. Arriving in 1959, the 24B had its shovel attached more securely with an axle pin that was painted over. Very early models had crimped axles, but these quickly changed to rounded ends. In another first for the series, the 24B became the first model to feature its name cast onto the underside. It had one casting modification during its marathon 8 years in production, where part of a body line and rivet detail was removed from the left side, just ahead of the cab. Owing to its longevity and availability, values are again low on 24Bs, even for the crimped axle variants. It was finally discontinued in 1967, replaced by the vastly more sophisticated Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. In all, the two Weatherill hydraulic models lasted 11 years in the Matchbox 1-75 range. Weatherill was founded in the late 1940s by a Mr. F.E. Weatherill of North London. He was formerly a director of another similar company, Chaseside Engineering. Designed on a Ford skid unit, a hydraulic loader prototype called the H1 was built in 1950, based on a Fordson Major tractor. Chaseside were not interested in Fred Weatherill's proposals. By 1954, F.E. Weatherill Limited had moved just outside of London to a factory in Welwyn Garden City. Through the 50s and 60s, Weatherill grew significantly, as did its reputation. It expanded beyond the UK into international markets. but by the late 1970s they were struggling to compete with imports from Japan, Scandinavia and the USA. The Welwyn Garden City factory closed, with the company returning to a smaller site in Tottenham, North London, to the company's roots. However, their niche focus on two-wheel drive rigid loaders was not a success, and the company folded in the mid-80s. Coincidentally, Weatherill's factory neighboured Lesney's. Apparently, Lesney employees would raid the Weatherill scrap parts bin. Anyway, here I'm applying the, in my opinion, quite poor replica decals. The typeface is well off the mark. If I hadn't paid for them, I would have just made some myself. I think it's important to highlight these issues though, hence why I have persevered and kept them on the models. But with them both applied, I start clear coating the castings in a very unique way, attempting to prevent the shovels moving anywhere. To reassemble the models, the wheels need reattaching. So the 24A has its axle ends crimped using my set of locking pliers, while the 24B's flat ends are reformed with a good old fashioned bashing. Lastly, the axle ends are brightened with a dash of Molotow chrome. So here were my pair of number 24 Weatherill Hydraulic Excavators. The smaller 24A was missing its shovel, while the bigger 24B donated to me by Tony had been repainted green. Not only that, but the grey plastic wheels had been turned black too. Thoughtfully, however, the person who painted it skirted around the original Weatherill hydraulic decal, something that hadn't stood the test of time on the 24A. But here they both stand, resplendent in a new coat of chrome yellow and with a new shovel in its rightful place on the smaller model. They were a challenging pair to restore with the shovels in situ during painting, but I think both are vastly improved with their new paint schemes. As I mentioned earlier, the typeface on the decals is a little disappointing, but I won't dwell on that. I do want to quickly revisit the 24B however, as was. I felt like this needed its own transition without the 24A, just so you can see the difference more clearly. The paint on the wheels was tough to remove. Even with a good soaking in Dettol, it required scraping off, which left some marks on the plastic. But I love tackling lumpy, homemade paint jobs, so hats off to Tony for providing me with this one. It makes the transition all the more satisfying. The difference really is night and day. It's a shame no silver trim was ever applied to the 24B, as the hydraulic rams are really well cast. The casting is missing that side exhaust though. I think this final transition really highlights the size increase the 24B had over the 24A. It dwarfs the earlier model. Yet I prefer the intricacies of the older casting. Tell me which one you prefer in the comments section. Do you think I should redo the decals with my own design? Let me know your thoughts and please do leave a like if you enjoyed this pair of restorations. My thanks again to Tony for helping make this one possible. If you'd like to send me something for a restoration or just donate a casting or two, drop me an email or message me on Instagram. Links are in the video description. So thanks for watching and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.